Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously fascinating journey that completely bridges classic science fiction with some of the absolute most pressing tech debates of our modern era. We're going to use the classic Star Trek Voyager episode Nothing Human as this brilliant sort of Trojan horse to untangle a massive, real-world ethical dilemma. We'll be mapping out the complex ethics of artificial intelligence and how we handle incredibly useful information that has a really dark past.
So let's jump straight into our core question. Can knowledge gained through atrocities be ethically used? This sets the stakes right out of the gate, because honestly, this isn't just some fun sci-fi thought experiment. This directly invokes the intense real-world historical debates surrounding medical research gathered by the Nazis, particularly figures like Josef Mengele. How do we as a society actually grapple with data that comes from unimaginable suffering?
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to define our terms. We're talking about contaminated knowledge, which is highly beneficial information obtained through deeply unethical or even horrific methods. In our Star Trek source material, we see this concept anchored perfectly. The ship's doctor creates a holographic reconstruction of a brilliant scientist named Krell Mozet. Now, Mozet has these incredible medical breakthroughs, but those breakthroughs came directly from cruel, torturous experiments on the Bajoran people during a brutal military occupation.
Moving right along to Section 1, the hologram's dilemma.
The dynamic that plays out here is just absolutely wild. The crew basically treats the hologram like a criminal. And here's where it gets incredibly tricky, right? Because the hologram didn't actually commit any atrocities. It's literally just a projection. It's essentially an AI model trained on the historical Monset's medical knowledge and his personality profile. But despite that, the crew reacts with absolute disgust, treating this AI as if it were the actual, physical war criminal who tortured innocent people.
Which brings us to Section 2. Is the AI tainted?
I really want you to stop and consider this for a second. Can you ever actually separate knowledge from its source? Like, if a piece of software or an AI is built entirely from the work of incredibly unethical people, does that mean the AI itself is inherently tainted with their sins? Does digital code literally carry the moral weight of the human who gathered the data? It's a profound, almost dizzying question about the very nature of information itself.
All right, let's hit Section 3, utility versus morality.
In this show, things get very real very fast. The theoretical becomes literal. Moiset's medical expertise successfully saves the character B'Elanna from a deadly alien parasite. And this frames the ultimate tension. They literally had to use the hologram to save a life. It forces us to ask if discarding beneficial knowledge just because of its unethical origins is actually, a dereliction of duty to the living?
So we've got a massive balancing act here. On one hand, you have the argument to use the knowledge simply because doing so prevents further harm. Refusing life-saving information could easily be seen as causing additional, completely unnecessary suffering. But then, on the other hand, you have the very powerful argument to reject the knowledge, because using it might legitimize those original atrocities and deeply disrespect the victims who suffered to generate that data in the first place.
Let's actually break down these two camps a bit more. If you fall into the use it side, the core argument is often that, tragically, the victims are already dead. Nothing can change that, and the knowledge itself is just data. It's morally neutral. But if you fall into the reject it camp, the core argument is that society simply should not benefit from crimes against sentient beings. The idea is that doing so essentially rewards the abuser's methods, even from beyond the grave. Talk about a true moral labyrinth.
Next up, Section 4. Patient autonomy under fire.
Now, this introduces a huge twist that a lot of viewers on forums like Reddit argue is actually the most important issue in the entire story. The patient, B'Elanna, finds out the true identity of the hologram, and because of her own strong moral convictions, she explicitly refuses the medical treatment. But then, Captain Janeway completely overrides her wishes and forces the procedure on her anyway, while she's unconscious, just to save her life.
So, the big question, does a competent patient actually have the right to refuse a life-saving treatment purely for moral reasons? It's a fantastic Socratic question to ponder. In the context of modern medical ethics, the answer is generally yes. A competent adult absolutely has the right to refuse treatment, even if it means they won't survive. So Janeway's decision to override that autonomy? Yeah, that adds a massive layer of ethical compromise to an already incredibly fraught situation. And this leads us right into Section 5, the modern AI parallel.
If you just strip away the sci-fi paint for a minute and look through a contemporary lens,
The character of Morset is the absolute perfect stand-in for AI systems trained on ethically contaminated data today. Think about stolen data sets. Right now, we're fiercely arguing over AI models built on copyrighted material taken without consent, or private medical records scraped from the web, or even data labeled by heavily exploited workers in developing nations.
But just like our fictional hologram, these modern models often produce incredibly valuable results. And we are forced to look in the mirror and ask, can our society ethically benefit from the highly valuable outputs of these AI models while simultaneously condemning the methods that were used to create them? Can we really separate the miracle cure from the stolen data?
Let's make this super concrete. I want you to imagine a scenario in 2026. A groundbreaking advanced medical AI is developed. It has the proven, undeniable capability to save thousands of lives by perfectly diagnosing rare diseases. But it's suddenly discovered that it was trained on data gathered through severe human rights violations. Should hospitals use it?
We're basically looking at three incredibly tough options for dealing with these tainted AI systems. Option 1, destroy the model entirely. But is that just throwing away a cure? Is that morally wasteful? Option 2, use the model anyway. But is that fundamentally unethical? Does it validate the human rights violations? Or option 3, preserve and use it, but openly acknowledge and condemn its origins. But honestly, is a disclaimer really enough to wash the data clean?
Now, if you're wondering how the show actually wrapped this up, well, the doctor deletes the program anyway. Yep, despite it saving a life, he deletes the Morset hologram at the very end. The show never ties this up with a neat little bow. It leaves us with an action that fans are still fiercely debating today. Was deleting the program a morally necessary act of defiance, or was it a morally wasteful act that destroyed a tool capable of doing so much future good?
I want to leave you with this one final provocative thought. As we continue to build the future of artificial intelligence, we are absolutely going to face our own Krell Morsets. When that day comes, should a life-saving AI built on human rights violations be used or destroyed? Where do you draw your ethical boundaries? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep thinking about this one.